Alright everyone, welcome back to our Tabletop Assault podcast episode 7. I'm your host David, and today we're joined by Ross and Rob. Say hello guys.
Hello.
Hello guys.
Hope you can all hear us good.
Hopefully there was some updates on various platforms which caused us to panic half an hour ago.
Okay, I'm not panicking, and the inside I'm panicking as always, but I'll keep cool while we host this podcast. So, first of all, we want to apologise. It's been a good number of months since we've been able to do these podcasts. There's obviously been some crazy stuff that's happened around the globe, as we all know. I'm not going to mention it because I feel everyone's sick of hearing it. But for those who are joining us today and those who are watching us on the replay, we just want to say thanks very much for coming back, listening to us, hearing us rant, hearing us talk about the stuff that we love, which is tabletop games, I guess. Couple of topics of discussion today, just to give you guys a sort of heads up. We're going to give our impressions of 9th edition around the table because we've all had the lucky opportunity of having hands-on games with it now, and we've had a playthrough of different forces, so a good experiences to share. We're going to get an update from Rob today, really big one, about his journey with Genestealer Cult. Obviously you've seen on our page and also on Pixeloo's page, Necron Force that Rob's currently working on. Looks absolutely lovely. Want him to tell a bit more about that. And then we're going to talk about the Codex releases. You obviously had Necrons there, you had Space Marines, and oh boy were they massive changes to sort of one of the armies in particular, i.e. Necrons, and some not so much on Space Marines. We'll chat about it. And then we did promise the last time we wanted to do a podcast was answer some viewer questions, and we have some interesting ones for you today. Apologies if we don't answer all the questions on today's podcast. We will come to them in the next podcast. So guys, also throughout it, put any questions you have in the chat. We'll happily answer them as we go along. So guys, let's get things started. And you know what? I actually want to start with Ross, because I think you've probably had more hands-on experience in 9th edition than any of us. Talk us through it. Tell us what you think. Have you enjoyed it so far, and what have you found quite interesting?
So I have to say I'm a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to 9th edition. The good thing is I do feel it is overall, a tightening of the rules in a lot of ways, which is fine. So overall, the parts I like have mostly kept in touch. The part I like best, which has complicated it, and it's something we need to improve on as well, is terrain. Now, it's been a fine balance where in 8th edition people felt terrain was just really not even worth thinking about. Now terrains became something very much need to think about, like very much, not just, line of sight blockers, but also other functionalities.
Couldn't agree more.
And I think it's certainly now one that, in my eyes, I'm like thinking, and some of the quality of some of the stuff they've brought out recently, and is available in general online. There's some cracking Necron ones and Orc ones out there that look amazing. I think terrain is now, and you certainly saw it through their new book that they did, the chapter approved one, which was more for competitive players in terms of terrain setup. There is a big push to terrain, you see with faction focused ones, and it's something I'm intrigued to delve into later. The only part of this edition that I don't like, and I think people are going to heavily disagree with me on this one, is I'm not big on the missions. Now, to say on the missions in this one, I think they've been... So what they've done with them is that they've made them, I feel, a little bit simple and no randomness to them. And what I mean by that is that and I suppose if you're playing competitive games, it's very important that you know how your army works and you know the best way to utilize them, which I think this type of missions play strongest to. That, I'm going to take the secondary objectives I want and I know how my army's going to work in that one. But I miss the old pull a card and you get random ones, and that could really decide a game. Sometimes we play a dice game, and that's why I sometimes like it going to chance, and I feel the missions have taken chance out of the missions, and I'm not enjoying that as much. I feel skilled players, ones who just absolutely want to win and get the most of our armies, are going to prefer this because you'll probably do better. But I liked a bit of randomness. I liked it when you had a bad card draw or you had an amazing one that just came out of nowhere. I think it's now just became a little bit too, with you just have the objectives, they're worth the most points, sit on them as best you can, and then choose your secondary. I feel a lot of the randomness lost, and that's part I'm not the happiest.
So Ross, just to chime in there, so you think that sort of risk and reward factor that you once had is kind of maybe been put to one side?
It's not even risk, it's random, because you both, when you had the Maelstrom of War, it was you both, like, you could take out a couple of cards after chapter approved, but it was you both got a random deck, and it could be horrible for you. You could be absolutely blazing in the game, but the cards would just not happen. And that's just luck of the draw, same as the dice. Sometimes it doesn't work out for you. With that removal of this sort of, just random, you don't know if you're going to win. You might not. I preferred it when it was, a bit more random on that side. That each turn something could happen. I feel now that's been taken away. So the missions are the only part I'm a little bit critical on, and the terrain, and I'm absolutely loving.
You're loving the terrain?
Well, I was saying, the terrain before I was enjoying because they're evolving it to be more relevant to the game. So enjoy the terrain, but I'm not keen on the missions.
Rob, I'm just going to quickly chime in next, if you don't mind, because I would like to just follow up on terrain, if that's all right. So the recent game that me and Ross just played on the channel, which you can go and watch, which was the Necrons versus Imperial Fists.
Yep.
Terrain was an interesting one. Line of sight blockers was a major feedback we got on that battle report. Not going to go into the comments too much. We did have a massive line of sight blocker on the table. However, it didn't clearly have much impact in the game. What did have much impact on the game was that platform, that industrial platform, which had -1 to hit as its cover rule.
Because it was dense cover.
That's an interesting thing that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. It's a piece of cover which isn't actually giving you a benefit of your saving throws, which is something I'm just so used to, even in 7th edition as well. Just so used to that type of cover. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that a terrain piece can have so many multiple different aspects to it, and you have to look up your rulebook and see all 3 or 4 different rules that go with that one type of piece. It's a bit of a learning curve for me, because I didn't actually know that rule existed until we played that game, Ross. That was so my deployment on that, I have to just be honest, was totally coincidental. There was no intention of having the -1 to hit. Didn't realise that at all. I thought I'd be getting +1 to save.
It was funny because we had to agree on that as well, because there is different ways to do it, and I think we both, it was me who, because you didn't know about dense cover, and I was like, no, I don't believe it's quite light, I don't believe it's quite heavy, and we looked at the definitions that they give us as examples, and we sort of agreed it was going to be dense. You sort of said at one point, if I'm against the barricade, will you give me light cover as well? And I was like, absolutely not. You're not getting both dense and light cover. You can have, or something. I was like, you can have one. You can't have both because, well, I couldn't even move you when you were in dense cover, let alone if you had both.
Well, I'm a gambling man, and I apologise. That was just me being greedy, Ross. But yeah, thank you. If it wasn't for you letting me know though about the -1 to hit, I wouldn't have known. My final point though, I just wanted to kind of follow in terrain. Other than that, I have to admit I'm actually quite enjoying 9th edition so far at the moment. My first impressions of it is I wouldn't necessarily agree with the point of speeding up the game. I don't think that's actually happened. I think the game's still as long as it was before, if potentially stages not longer now. But
keep in mind, David, when we film, filming for us also adds like several hours on top of it.
Oh, so true, so true. But yeah, there's a couple of things that I'm liking that I just think makes the game a little bit better. The heavy rule for me is a great addition. It makes sense now for vehicles. Everyone's kind of pointed at the positives that have or ways to break that rule, but vehicles and heavy. Blast is coming back, albeit it's not templates, which I would love to see. But there are these sort of rules which just make more logical sense to me now. An infantry guy with a heavy weapon, these sort of things. Tanks, I'm loving it. Tanks to me now in vehicles feel they've lost that ball and chain they had in 8th edition, which was just charge the thing and lock it in combat, and it's done. Now,
yeah, it was a bit odd, that.
Yeah, now we can just have fun with our vehicles, and God, vehicles they tend to be one of your largest outlays when you're buying your armies. So now you're no longer having your vehicle being shot down or by a cheap cultist unit. You're now actually getting your vehicle getting value at almost every phase, every turn. So that's my opinions on it. I'm really liking it. I'm just trying to wrap my head around terrain. Rob, pass it on to you, buddy. I think you've had a couple of games now as well in 9th under your belt. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I had a couple of games with a couple of friend Rusty and a good friend Jamie from the local gaming club, and I've had one game with Pixie as well. just to see how we're getting on. Yeah, it's a different kettle of fish completely. I'm really enjoying it because they've seemed to streamline, like I said, the main missions. Yes, they seem to be very linear, but I like that because they're trying to take away a lot of the ambiguity of missions.
Yeah.
The complexity of the missions itself. It is a game of toy soldiers that you're there to kill each other. And it's pretty much it's how you run your army and how you want to run your army depends on what secondaries you want to take. So you'll learn on. So my army, for instance, will be really good at shooting. So I'll take it that every 10 wounds that I cause, I score a victory point. I said,
Yeah.
if you take a tank, it's a victory point. Every 10 casualties, a victory point, so on and so forth. If you're really, really shooty, like Tal Admech, or if you've got a shooty Admech, go for that. There's certain secondaries that will be dedicated to certain armies.
Yeah, I fully agree.
And you can see that evolving over time. Yes, we've had a month, 2 months of ninth, and we've had loads of people playing it, loads of people having feedback. It's actually been play tested by a lot of people, so you can actually see that it has been looked at. I mean, the terrain rules, I think, work a treat now because of you actually have to think about the terrain. It's not just a pretty piece of plastic or card or whatever you're using on the field. It's actually got a physical purpose.
I think that's one of the best points, Rob, you made about that. Terrain actually has its place now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not. Yes, it makes the board or your mats or whatever you're using look better, and it gives you a better feel. But at the same time, it does have a purpose on there, and what you need is it will take time for even the veterans to get their head around of how terrain works. Newbies, yes, you need to. You need to have that book by the side of you, and everybody needs to understand what that bit of terrain works. Now, what I've started off with Pixie and a few others is I've got some wooden tiles, and I actually write on wooden tiles to actually put on the top of the terrain and say, okay, this is -1 to hit through it, and this will give you +1 save or something like that. So when you physically see the terrain and look on the top of it, it's actually got like little card or little wooden pieces to say, this is what this terrain does. Until you get used to it over the next couple of months or so, it helps so much. So you can look at that terrain and say, oh, right, that's -1 to shoot through it, or that'll give you a +1 save. And you can start trying to understand the terrain better. But it is going to take a while for people to get used to the physical rules. But I think it will actually make the games a lot better, more involved using terrain.
Well, Rob, I'm going to instantly steal that idea, so thank you very much. That's a great idea, because I'm still wrapping my head around all the different rules you get. There's so many, and I need that sort of reference sheet rather than flicking through pages of books. Ross will probably know this from filming with me. I'm not illiterate. I just don't like reading. I just don't like reading through books. I just wanted to quickly clear that out there. I like having a tablet or a phone, and I'm not really getting the reference to terrain rules through that mechanism. I'm having to flick through pages, or just have to use Ross as my guru, because 9 times out of 10, Ross knows the rule and I don't.
I wouldn't go that far, mate. It's Ross as a guru. That's a scary thought.
I've got too much anger, mate. It's all kept inside.
Yeah, I know.
I don't have that much inner peace.
Well, yeah, we know that, mate. But ninth as a whole, I'm very, very impressed on what they've done.
Superb.
As a whole for the game itself is the right steps forward.
I just made a comment there on the thing I was saying. It's interesting they went from the 8-page mentality for 8th, and I think over the years they must have realised that that didn't quite work, because then you had endless FAQs trying to work out situations. The evolution that they've done from 8th to 9th, they've gone, we're not going to do 8 pages anymore. It's try and answer as much as we can, and they didn't answer everything, but they've done a cracking job at doing it.
one thing, just on that kind of note a bit as well about the references. I don't know on the podcast here, and I know there's a lot of, I say, divided opinions on this in the Warhammer community in general. Is obviously the Warhammer 40k app that you get. I'm going to be very careful how I describe this or say it, because I know a lot of people are for it and a lot of people are against it for obvious reasons. So far, the app's another thing that 9th edition's brought along, which I can see and I can invest in. I don't think it's there yet. I think it needs a lot more time to develop, and we can do our own separate podcast on the app alone. There's so much to talk about. But that's another thing I'm liking about 9th edition, is this more interactive evolution of the game. Albeit if it's just things like your reference sheets and your cards. That's something I want to see more in tabletop gaming, is more ways to interact and try and evolve the game a little bit. But the app does need a bit of work. I would like there to be a dedicated section in there. There is kind of for terrain, but a more improved way of explaining the terrain, because at the moment the app is just word for word out of the book. The book has really good reference things like the pictures and the diagrams and the graphs. That's what's needed in the app, and I'd like to see that sort of come along as well.
But it is evolving really
evolving
well.
Yeah.
And I think I say a good 75, 80 or even 90% of people are up for the evolution of 40k as a whole. Points changes, you don't get a lot more bang for your buck anymore.
True.
Which people with large armies, you're going to say, well, I want all these toys now, I can't take them in a particular game. Just increase the size of the game. Yeah, it's going to take longer, but you can then use all your toys as much as you want. You change on the detachment element. You having to buy your attachments for
makes sense to me.
Yeah, and it gives other elitist armies like Custards and Harlequins, etc. Now the opportunity to actually play with the big boys in relation to all their tricks. I mean, the games I play with you two with the Harleys, I've had 4 or 5 command points all game, and it's when to use.
That is true.
And it's so difficult.
I agree with you on that one. I think I've played Custodes once or twice. I think maybe a practice game as well, where I was using them in 9th, and the amount, and plus the War of the Spider, the amount of stratagems I am burning through, like it's such a difference. Such a difference. It's huge improvement to the army to actually be able to play their stratagems, and it feels a lot better. Also, love the comment "Custard Army equals 1 model." David, you sent me like an image, a joke. I think it was a quote from Star Wars, and it's like playing a 2,000 point Custodes army. It's like, oh my god, now there's 2 of them.
Yeah. It's true.
I love that.
I think. Go for it.
Yeah, so like for Harleys now, they are actually classed as one potential a higher tier army, because of you can now not this. I mean, the points are roughly the same, so you can get a really decent army and have the command points to do the tricks that they are supposed to do, and that gives me a joy. Yes, I need to do a lot more on the ground troops, because the Harleys have got very, very, very few models and squads that you can actually utilize in the army, which hopefully they may change in 9th. Never know what's going to happen. But I mean, with my AdMech, I still burn through 7 to 9 command points turn 1 to eviscerate the opponent. But seeing that you get 1 command point back every turn or every battle round, loving it. Really am loving it, and it actually gives every race a really good opportunity to do the tricks that they're supposed to do.
Well, guys, we'll move on, but that's pretty much, there you go. For those who've been listening, that's honest opinions so far. We are fully aware, though, 9th edition's still got an evolution to come. You're going to have more updates and tweaks of the game as the community gives its feedback. But so far, I think the general consensus is it's moving in the right direction. Am I fair to say that, guys?
Pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good to hear. Well, put in the comments as well down below your thoughts on 9th edition. We are always interested to hear what the community says about it, and we always love chatting to you guys. So any more opinions on the 9th edition which you think we may have missed, or you want to hear our opinions on some other elements of it, just put it in the chat below. So moving on, I'm really interested to hear this. We've been obviously stuck in our houses, doing our own wee things for a while, socially distancing, all that sort of jazz. But Rob, you've been working hard. You've been behind the scenes, really, really busy working on one force and now a new force, Genestealer Cult and Necrons. So we were hoping you could chat to us and first of all share, the Genestealer Cult, how it's getting on. What's your impressions by them? Because I think you may have started it in possibly late 8th, moving into 9th. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But how you feeling about the forces?
Yeah, I said I didn't actually play any of the Gene Cult in 8th. I can't remember anything of it, or possibly one game of it previously. It's a complete different kettle of fish to what I'm used to. Yeah, it's an interesting, difficult to utilize, difficult to get right.
It seems that way with the force, very unique.
It is very, very unique, but the models are fantastic. The paint scheme I've gone to is interlinking, as always, with AdMech itself. But it's just it's a different way of playing completely compared to what I'm used to. So the AdMech very shooty, certain like moving castles that I've got. Then with Harley's very fast, in your face, elite. And with the Genestealer now is a lot more, not necessarily horde, but larger units.
It's a mix.
More tanks now, which is great.
Right, okay.
So I've got 3 Ridge Runners and 3 Rock Grinders. Rock Grinders, a lot of people are saying they're not worth the huge amount of points what they are, but I'm finding them fantastic, loving them.
Tell me a little.
They also look super cool. So
they do. The aesthetic for them is very, very nice.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I went for them. Is one, the aesthetic, and 2, you don't see that many Gene Cult armies out there. And as people know, is I don't go by the mainstream. I do go sideways and utilize things that not many people do and try to make them work. And like I said, a few test games, I've had 1 or 2 mishaps on there, but at the same time, I've been really, really happy on how they work.
So it's interesting you say that, Rob. You're saying you don't usually go the usual way where players going. Yeah, you have started a Necron army, but I do know you. But I do know you as a player, Rob, and you tend not to play the way a lot of other players. Like I've seen you play armies in completely different ways to other people. So I'm very intrigued to see because Necrons are the big thing at the moment, along with Space Marines, but Necrons having huge amount of extra units. I'm very intrigued. I'm intrigued by Genestealer, but I'm very intrigued your thoughts on Necrons, in terms of what play style would you go for? Obviously, you have your, a lot of people talking about having loads of infantry and stuff because obviously one wound is a bit better. But I'm intrigued very much to hear your take because me and you differentiate on like AdMech and stuff. So I'm intrigued to hear what your play style on them.
Well, at the moment, I'm going for Ruler Cool, and at the moment,
that's the best way to play.
Yeah, and at the moment, with all the models that I've got from 2 Indomitus boxes and the odds and sods that I've picked up on pre-order, etc., I've got about 2,800 points.
Oh my word!
Ready. That's virtually all built via 2 heavy destroyers. So it's a lot of troops on the ground. The Reanimators I'm loving for just the physical model wise. The Doomstalker is an absolute monster, and I've got to buy another 2 of those.
Look huge, absolutely huge.
The way that I've done the models is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely loving it. I've got Illuminar Zaris to build and paint. I said I need to have a couple of play tests with the armies on how I want to play it, but I like a lot of the Canoptic destroyers. That's what's really grabbed hold of me on the Destroyer Cult. Warrior wise, yeah, I'm looking at 40 to 60 warriors on the board at any time with Overlords and Cryptex, because the models for Cryptex look absolutely stunning.
Agreed, they are amazing.
The rules may be absolute pish, Excuse the language there, but maybe absolute pish on there. But at the same time, the models are absolutely
great.
stunning.
Is it the Chronomancer, the one with the cubes?
Yeah, the floating cubes.
Yeah. He rolls a lot of sixes, that's for sure.
Or he just plays with Rubik's cubes. That's all it is.
Solving 3 at a time. What a master.
Yeah, well, yeah, and singing and dancing and God knows what. But yeah, the models, they've gone absolutely to town on it. So whatever model you want, the model's absolutely stunning. I mean, I've got a Nightbringer ready to paint up as well. Void Dragon is just a stunner, and that is got to be bought and painted straight away. But for gameplay wise, like I said, I'm still digesting the Codex. The Codex layout is very, very good. Really impressed with it.
Yeah, agreed.
The stratagems, I said I'm not completely au fait with all the stratagems from 8th for Necrons. I've played them about 4 or 5 times in the whole of 8th, so I'm not completely au fait with them. But it's digesting what the stratagems can do, how many points they're going to cost, when to use them, how to use them, what do I need to use them with. So that's going to take some time. But whilst I'm doing that, I'm painting up as much as I can that I like the look of.
Yeah.
But to be fair, every single model you can possibly think of in the Necron Codex now looks good. There's a few models on going, do I really want to spend that much on particular models that are not to dishearten people with at least one of the new pre-orders coming through this weekend, but it's a really nice model and we'd love to have them. But physically using in a game, I'm not convinced.
Is that the Void Dragon?
No.
You talking about the Hexmark?
No, the Monolith.
Oh, disagree. When we come to talk about the Codex, I'll give my opinions on that. Yeah, disagree.
The only reason for me not enjoying it is, or the look of it, is because it's a super heavy choice.
Yep, so you have to spend command points or something.
Yeah, as a super auxiliary just to have one, and then you can't use any your dynasties on it.
Yeah, I think they made a bit of a mistake with Lords of Wars in a way.
Yeah, but at the same time, you need to look at to really utilise them. You need to buy 3. Now, one that's £300 to buy. Yeah, and secondly, it's 350 points each. So it's over half your allowance on a super heavy detachment that you're gonna have to spend 6 command points on, and then what you're gonna have for the other 930 odd points or whatever it is.
Let me tell you, you bring another 3.
Yeah. Rob, I've got some jokes. You're saying, £300. I'm like, Rob, we all knew what we signed up for when we started this hobby, man.
Yeah, but from
secondly, 700 points, or was it 300? It's nearly 1,100, between 1,100 and 1,200 points for £300. That's a bargain, if you're playing orcs or Genestealer Cult.
Ross, we aren't playing Custodes, all right?
Yeah, that's true.
Right, I've spent 30 quid and I've got 2,000 points.
Pretty much. But to be fair, what the designers and the sculptors have done on the Necrons, it is a round of applause to them. They've done it. They've smacked it out the park.
Sure.
Some of the rules, I'm not completely convinced on a few on some of the models.
Mm-hmm.
But the look of it, I mean, I've got a Hexmark coming through at the weekend because one, I've got a Kellamore for Gene Cult. I want one for Necrons, and when I come to playing against Imperial Guard or Orcs, I'll have 3 of them and just sit there popping away against Orcs and Gretchen and God knows what, and have 36 shots all the way through at any time on 3 models.
Yeah.
Loving it. But to be fair, I said until I start physically playing a couple of games, and I said trying out the Catan, trying out the King himself, not Elvis, but the silent one.
I shouldn't laugh, but I'm gonna silently.
Yeah, good lad. yeah, I'll wait, but I'm intrigued because, like I say, they've always been in the back of my head since they were ever released, way back. I think second or third ed, and even within like the likes of Space Crusade, where you got the AI models, but they're actually the first ever incarnation of the Necrons.
Yep.
And they always were a pain in the backside to get rid of in Space Crusade. They evolved into 40k as a force. You can always tell how, well, just looking back at the models themselves, how bad they actually were. But it was it was the time of how 40k was on in that part. And now the kits are absolutely stunning. The way that you can do multiple poses, the models themselves are just brilliant. A painter's dream at times. Yeah, so did you give it a couple of months or so? I mean, I want to finish off one or two more models for Gene Cult to give me a bit of flexibility.
Yep.
So then when we can start playing them on the channel, we've got a bit of flexibility on there, and then I'll bring my Necrons on there with this paint scheme that I got, and see how they go.
Well, Rob, firstly, thank you for giving us a wee update. Very excited, and it's interesting, giving your opinions there on getting into Necrons, because it's a new type of force for you. You're definitely right. I'll come back to the monolith thing later, because I'm an old school Necron player and I love big giant pyramids that float and shoot things. So we'll come back to that. But yeah, thanks a lot, Rob. Again, guys, put down the comments down below any questions you have, even for Rob, about Genestealer Cult or starting Necrons. Love to hear it, and we'd love to answer it. So moving on, we're going to come on to the next topic. Now, there's been a lot of chat in the community. We've also on our channel here done our review videos on this subject. But we want to have a wee chat now about, hands-on experience, first impressions. We've already kind of alluded to some of the key things we like about the new Codex releases that have came out from Necrons and Space Marines. So Ross, I kind of want to hand it over to you, because me and you kind of got an early look at them, a couple of pre-games with them. Not necessarily asking you need to explain in much detail, because you've done that already in a review video, and apologies.
I'm planning to do a much more detailed video later on, because there's so much to say.
Or you can watch my review on Space Marines where there was little to say.
Well, because mine lasted a little bit longer.
Yeah, I remember that now. So I'm going to quickly just start for myself, guys, on the new Codexes. Physically, the books are nice. Although I did clearly state at the start I like my digital copies, but I am liking the new layouts. Rob, you said it yourself, the new layouts are a lot smarter, easier to follow. There's some nice reference pages at the back, nice glossary pages and real references. And additionally, the way points now work, it seems to be a lot more streamlined. You're kind of putting
about to say that. Yep.
a lot simpler, which is the best thing for it.
Goodness.
You buy your unit and you only pay for a couple of wee extra additions. Most of the stuff is already built into the unit. You don't have to go and write down on your list all these extra points and stuff. It was just a bit silly, wasn't it, guys? There was too many additions, so now it's been streamlined.
Yeah, you start writing a novel for a 500-point army, and well, for custos it'll be on the back of a postage stamp, but yeah, pretty much.
So
it's easier. Sorry, I was just going to say it was to make it easier for Ross to write an army list these days.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't write one. I do digitally, so I'm going to move on for that. But guys, also the codexes. I was just going to pick out a few wee key things which I noticed as an old school Necron player, and obviously as well as I think I played probably the majority of the Space Marines in the channel as well, which hurts me and makes me feel sick inside. And I'm actually a Chaos player, and ever since the channel started, I've not really had the chance to love my Chaos anymore. But anyway, we move on. Someone has to do Space Marines. The Space Marines didn't really get much of a change, let's be honest. And I think first impressions of playing that Codex, truthfully, is it's the same. You're still going to gunline the same. You're still going to combat the same. You're still going to abuse your auras the same. Okay, there's a few tweaks with the core word and all the codexes coming up, but the playstyle of Space Marines hasn't really changed.
The key part I saw a little bit of a major change on, because the way I look at them is, the parts I saw needed to change for most codex are usually the Legion rules, the stratagems, the warlord traits, and the relics, because relics became more relevant as codexes came out. I remember Genestealer Cult being very good for relics versus some of the earlier on ones, where I was like, why are these relics here? I think in terms of Space Marine ones, they didn't upgrade the Warlord traits nearly enough, nor the relics are okay, but the stratagems have been streamlined a lot better.
Yeah, the strategy, we actually put quite a few of them into good use in our battle report, Ross. The stratagems, the toolbox of stratagem Space Marines have now, they can best, I think they've been designed though in a way where they have a stratagem for everything. They can kind of go into a game and they're going to be able to use their stratagems no matter what type of army is sent their way. Relics, you're 100% right, they feel very much the same. There is a few tweaks, let's not kid ourselves, and same with Warlord traits, there's a few tweaks, but it's kind of the same as it was before. I don't know if that's because GW thought they were happy with the relics and the Warlord traits. I personally amn't. I don't find the relics or the Warlord traits have ever came into that much of an effect in any game I've played with Space Marines, with the exception of maybe the supplement Codex ones, which are a bit more unique to the way you play. But other than that, Necron one, however, I think it's a total opposite, and Ross will probably go in a bit more detail, and so will Rob. I felt the Necron Codex, everything sort of had its place to a degree. A lot of the units seem to fit really well. The relics to me seem quite good, especially the Cryptek, Crona or Arcana, whatever they're called. Their relics table as well. And the Warlord traits actually seem quite nice. Same with the Legion traits. However, how that will date as the other codexes come out, we'll wait and see, because early codexes tend to have not as good a chance as you get halfway through an edition. But my opinion of it is it's been really updated and everything sort of has its place and its use. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I mean, from what I've been reading through the Necron book, is you just start looking at the stratagems and actually start looking at combos, what you want to do and how you want to run your armies. And I mean, I'm still learning about the dynasty rules. And how they can actually interact, etc., etc. And then the command protocols are top, which is a nice element to it, because I see it's giving you your chapter tactics, etc., per turn for your Necrons, which is a nice one. I mean, it's another layer of rules that you need to keep a mindful of, but at the same time, it is quite nice. The Marine Codex, I've not had a proper read of it, but it seems like you said, virtually identical to the Marine Codex from 8th, with the added extra of the Mario Kart and a few extras. But at the same time is the change on the aura abilities themselves and using it with core troops. So you can't stick a captain with a lieutenant at the back with 3 repulsors and go, I'm rerolling everything for days with a chapter master and rerolling ones to wound for days with a lieutenant. Those days are gone, which for a lot of people is a great big relief, because it was getting to the stage of being OP. But at the same time is, again, the models that I've done for them, love them to bits, absolutely fantastic. I think they've, like you say, they've taken the 8th edition codex, tweaked it, manipulated it, changed point values on it, looks at the auras and gone, bit OP, let's just change it ever so slightly. Let's add a Mario Kart in there. Let's add the bunker with all the guns. But the new models themselves are absolutely stunning.
Gonna just interrupt really quickly, guys, because we did forget a point which we need to reverse back to before we forget, because we'll be criminals if we didn't touch on this in this podcast, and we'd risk of forgetting. Storm shields.
The big change.
Yes.
Storm shields.
So we can't forget about it. Let's just talk about it. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yep.
The rolling for it in 9th edition is a big fat yes.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely happy with it. I just think the limiting 3 up in balls, which is good. It improves your armor save, which I think is the right way forward. So the AP, especially when it's lower amounts, is a bit more, obviously it ignores AP -1 if you're like a Terminator or something, or in general it does. It makes it a bit more relevant. I think it only hurts once you're hit by something that's like AP -4. or AP-3, I forget the math on it. But yeah, overall, I think it's a massive improvement.
Yeah, I need to just... I think I was probably in the channel the most guilty person of abusing Storm Shields. So I'll just...
That's because I think you're the only... Other than me playing Custodians, I never used Storm Shields because I used bikes. I think you're the only one with true access to them.
Well, Space Wolves and my Terminators... I won't lie, I'm the person that's... I shouted and screamed about the Storm Shield being reduced on the Venerable Dreadnoughts for Space Wolves, the Blizzard Shields Frost Axes. I originally, in my first review, was like, I don't like it, I'm annoyed they've gone from 3 up to 4 up. Then I didn't care for it. I thought, actually, it makes no difference. It's still a Dreadnought with an invul of 50-50, that's brutal. I'm of the same opinion. I was nervous at first when I heard the change, but now that I've seen it in action on some reports and I've kind of chance to think about it, it's absolutely fair. I think there's actually some people I've read in comments still screaming for it to be nerfed even further. But that whole +1 to your armor. But get me wrong, I think the +1 to your armor save and 4 up invul seems about fair. It seems the right spot for a Storm Shield.
Yeah, it is. And I say I've never had an army with Storm Shields at all. The last few editions. I mean, now with Necrons with the Lich Guard with the Storm Shields, with their shields themselves, basically classing with the same rules as Storm Shields.
Yeah,
I've got no issues with it at all, and I think it's going to work. It's going to just basically help. Not abuse it more than anything.
Yeah, I think our channel was definitely guilty of it. We've had many battle reports. Ross will attest to this, where you've had an army, which is our unit in particular, is really strong, came up against Storm Shields. The unit you've used has done everything it had to do, and it was just the 3 up invuls that kept them alive. But then you look at the points value between those two units, it wasn't fair, it wasn't balanced, it wasn't just. And I think there's certain armies, Space Wolves in particular, that could abuse the Storm Shield factor too much. Again, I'll put my hands up and say I was one of those people. So I feel it's gone a long way to rebalancing. Like, for example, Space Marines now already have 2 wounds, and now you're given some like Space Wolf units, like, because your standard Wolf Guard, just your basic Marine, has now gone up a wound, and it can take a Storm Shield. Imagine that was a 2 wound model, basic Marine armor with a 3 up invul. It's a bit much. So the 4 up invul +1 armor seems great.
Yeah, it's going to be a game changer for a lot of people, but it's going to help sort of smooth a lot of the issues out on that.
Yeah. Well, I think anyone else got any closing comments? Anything on the codexes? Because I've said my piece. I will come on to monoliths separately in just a wee second.
No.
I think I'll avoid saying too much on codexes because how much time we got. And Necrons, I could literally fill an hour itself. And there's a few words to say about Space Marines and supplements, how that's going to affect the future.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw, I think they announced today that in November it's going to be Death Watch and Space Wolves are the first supplement codexes. And in December it's going to be Blood Angels and Death Guards. Don't know if you saw it, but that's very interesting on that side because I actually thought it'd be the other way around. I could go on for too long, but I'm aware for time. We covered Storm Shields, covered Space Marines, and Necrons. Don't get me started. I'll go on for way too long. Too long.
So the monolith, I just want to quickly finish up on. I can totally get all your points, Rob, about the monolith being super expensive, the Legion rules, if you bring them as a unit of 3. I actually think a monolith on its own is still going to pack a massive punch. What was it always missing? It was its firepower, it was its weaponry, it was survivability. Now it's got more wounds, kind of matching its points cost. Now it's got a decent armor save, and it can take those. I can't remember what the guns are called, Ross. You're going to have to correct me here. What's Death Rays? Yeah. It can now take Death Rays. I'm sorry, I've got a pyramid that can shoot a thing called Death Rays. That's amazing. And it's got a Portal of Death. I'm loving it. Absolutely.
Portal of Exile.
Yeah, I knew it was called Exile. I just like to call the word Death.
Oh, right, okay, my bad.
Yeah.
I'm going to call mine the Death Monolith.
Yeah, but remember, when you say Death Ray, you need to put your small pinky to the side of your mouth in an Austin Powers
I got the reference. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, I do have 2 cats. I just need to shave one of them, and then I can do it, Mr. Bigglesworth. But yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to find my death ray. Yes.
But I like it. I like it, man. The model is cool. I don't think you need 3. I think 3 is a bit much, but it depends. I think the unit itself is not going to die quickly anymore.
Well, it doesn't have an invuln, which is slightly worrying, but at the same time, yeah, fair enough.
It's tough as nails, good armor save, tons of wins.
Yeah, the obelisk on the other side, I wouldn't touch with a battle.
The obelisk, yeah, agreed.
I like the model. I'd use it as a terrain piece, a very expensive terrain piece, but a terrain piece nonetheless. But other than that, I wouldn't use it in game. That's all.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, there you go. There's some honest opinions on the codexes from around the table for us who've had access to them. Again, we want to hear from you guys who are watching this on replay or live just now. Put in the comments down below any questions you want to ask about it. Your opinions as well, because we love hearing about what you guys think of the codexes. So we're moving on to something a little bit different. We're moving away from serious hobby chat. We did promise a few months back when we planned to launch back our podcast, but certain things delayed it. We were going to answer some viewer questions. So apologies in advance if we don't answer all of these questions. We can move them on to the next podcast. But we've picked out some interesting ones while we've got some time left today to answer. And don't worry, we're not going to read out all your names or details. We're just going to go by your first name, ask the question, and who it's asked towards. Some of these I'm going to take very personally. No, I'm kidding on, but we'll come to them later. So we're going to start off. So this is one for round the table, and this came from Tony. What is our favourite video games? I'm going to start with you, Ross. Don't take forever, please.
Oh, why do you have to start with me? I'm very much in single-player games, quite honestly. So I love my narrative ones. The problem is trying to find time to play them. I recently, I had more free time at the end of the year. Last year I completed The Witcher 3, first time last year, which was an amazing experience. That was a phenomenal game. And I went through Red Dead Redemption 2, which is good. So I like my single-player games. Narrative ones, but also love Total War franchise as well, which are fantastic. So anything single player that is a good story, I am pretty much game for. And Total War, you can just about any of them I'm pretty happy with, though my favourite was Medieval Total War 2. What a game! 2006, I think it was. It was magic.
If Ross is wrong with the date, call him out in the comment section below.
I won't be wrong.
Because you never are wrong, and that frustrates me.
I believe it was November 2006. I'm going to Google that now.
Here we go.
Let's have a look. I could be wrong. October, November.
See,
I remember what I was doing the day I bought it.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, you can come back to that. Rob, what about yourself, buddy? What about video games? What are you into?
Well, so I've multiple different types, but I say PS4. Console games is a lot of racing simulators like Need for Speed, Gran Turismo, Forza, etc. like that, and like Mortal Kombat or the single player, 2-player beat 'em ups. But my favorite of all is basically Diablo. Diablo is one of those games that I was brought up with my dad from Diablo 1, 2, a little bit of 3 before he passed. But that was my game of choice.
Good choice.
Going raiding with dad and a load of friends, doing Bale runs, doing Mephiston runs, creating characters from scratch, having numerous accounts like my dad did of sort of 16 to 17 different characters. And it was fun. I mean, you could sit there and play 12, 14 hours straight without any issues.
That's the point.
Yeah, it is. And I've been doing a few of them with Pixie as well, because she plays Diablo quite a bit with me, and it's nice. Yeah, that sort of style. I mean, I used to play like Dungeon Master, Wolfenstein 3D, etc. way back when on Atari and Amiga. Those were the classic games. But at the moment on the PC is sort of PC and PS4 is sort of Need for Speed and
Raceman. Fair enough. Well, myself, it's quite simple. Anyone who knows me at any sort of personal level, there's really only one franchise for me,
Dawn
um, and it's Total War. Not Dawn of War. You were close. You were very close. Any Total War game I'm playing probably at least once a day or at least once every 2 days. I'm not lying.
Not or anything.
No, and I'm being very honest with that. Duke, who's watching or listening just now and has been in the chat, me and him used to play quite seriously in Shogun Total War 2. I miss those days. One day we'll get it back, but Total War is my franchise. Absolutely love it. Other than that, I like dipping into the odd sort of story-driven game. So your Heavy Rain, your Until Dawn, that sort of stuff. Something that's going to grip me by a story. They're the sort of games I'll sit down, play through till it's finished, and then never play it again. But I've enjoyed the playthrough. Total War though, it's never going to stop. I'll keep playing Napoleon Total War until I'm 80 and I can't click the mouse anymore.
Oh, so arthritis sets in, yeah?
In fact, what am I saying? Clearly we'll have evolved AI by then. I'll be like controlling it with my eye movements. Obviously.
Yep.
Yeah, of course. What am I thinking? I'll be playing it forever.
Immortal. Do it with your mind, though. Directly connect to your mind.
That's no. I don't want anyone connecting to my mind. That's a dangerous thing.
And a scary singularity moment.
Yeah. All right, guys. Moving on. Conscious of time, so we'll push some more. Push some back possibly, but so we've got a question here from Graham, and this one is to Ross. How have you enjoyed your journey through painting? I'm assuming he's probably looked at all your updates.
Sure. So painting, I never painted. So I've been playing on and off since about 2001, roughly when the Fellowship of the Ring came out. Just before that, and I never painted until I think it was April, May last year, where I started on Chaos. Yeah. Did Chaos, did them quite well, and then I've moved on to a few other projects working on Astra Militarum now. Honestly, it's beginning to become one of the most infuriating but also rewarding part of the hobby, in all honesty. It can drive me absolutely mental at times, but when you get a good project done, it's very, very, very rewarding, and I'm enjoying it quite a lot.
I think you just have to say your skills have came on immensely over the last year, and I just want to say as well, just for
you saw my Chaos. That was my first arm, and you're like, "Damn, Ross, that's really good." And I nailed it. But the key, the key is I had a really good teacher who'd done a lot of our armies beforehand. He gave me a good paint scheme and kept me right. And then the key is we've got so much access to information through YouTube and people we generally know that you can achieve a high quality as long as you get the fundamentals right. And you're just willing to listen and be patient. We've got so much access to information that you can achieve almost anything you set your mind to when it comes to the painting world. Almost.
Okay. All right, moving on to a question for you, Rob. We have... Okay, so this is from Andy. Have you had the chance yet during 9th edition to enter yourself and play in any of your tournaments? And if so, what has there been any standout changes that you've noticed?
Sorry to say, Andy, but no, I haven't. Due for COVID, etc., a lot of tournaments haven't gone off. So there's possibly been one or two before everything hit hard, etc. With COVID. It's just one of those things.
No, that's fair enough, Rob.
I would like to, but with everything kicking off, I can't really say how it's affected. I've been talking to a load of friends that have been doing tournaments, that have had the chance to do tournaments. Space Marines are still quite heavy up there.
Heard some rumours, yep.
Quite heavy up there. But same with Harlequins as well, with a lot of the new rules that have been kicking about. So, yeah, I think it's potentially going to be next year at the earliest that I'll be able to get to a tournament. But I do want to get back into the tournament scene ASAP. But I do need to have practice games with the two new armies that I've got
Yeah.
Rock and roll.
Workout to do.
What army would you want to use? So I know you're big in tournaments playing Admech. What would you say things are the current at they are in terms of codexes and stuff? Because in a few months' time that'll change. What would you take to a tournament? You feel at the moment?
At the moment, I would still take my Admech.
Yeah.
Reason being is just that one rule, the vehicle rule.
Yeah.
With robots. People know I've got 6 robots, but I've actually got 12.
Oh my word!
6 shooters and 6 punchers.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also got the flyer, a couple of the dogs, horses, and the small bats, which I have tried out. And to be honest, the fly is fantastic. The dogs and that lot and the bats have got their place. They are quite weak, but really, really good. The vehicle rule is fantastic. In 9th, Admech I am finding is very, very good. It's come on leaps and bounds, and with the play style that I use with them, it's making it even better. So at the moment, I would still take Admech to a tournament until I get used to using the other 2 armies. I may even look at taking Necrons one time, which as soon as the rest of the army comes out, I have a lot of games until I'm comfortable with using it, which shouldn't take that long, but I need to get comfortable with that army first before taking it to a 5-6 game tournament. But other than that, yeah, I would still take Admech at the moment.
All right, thank you very much, guys. Well, we've got time for a few more questions. I'm going to move on to one of mine, which I'm dreading and answering. So I'm going to keep this very short for you, Jamie, if you're listening just now, or if you're watching this on replay. What's my thoughts on the Ultramarine Space Marine movie? Oh boy, where do I begin?
People just, like, a question comes to you, it's just, how can I annoy David with Ultramarines? Like, yeah. It's become a thing now.
That and Custodes are like coming up close to being the second army to troll me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. There's a few viewers now who seem to put comments about Custodes, and my name seems to pop up near them when I don't play them, but they know it annoys me. Anyway, so what's my opinions on that movie? With all the respect to Games Workshop and anyone who was involved in the production of that movie and the voice actors and the work that goes in it, I thought the movie was a hot pile of garbage. There we go. That's my honest opinion. And the film would have been saved if it wasn't Ultramarines. If it was someone else, anyone else, it could even have been Necrons, and I'd have been happy. Ultramarines, I don't know. It's not a movie that I enjoyed. The only part I enjoyed about that movie was when the Ultramarines were dying. That was quite entertaining. The Demon Prince just crushing some guys. That was cool. I liked the part. I'm going to give spoilers because I don't care for the movie. Warning, spoilers. The captain guy who ends up being possessed.
It's been 10 years since it came out.
And I bet some people still haven't brought themselves to watch it for good reasons. The captain turns into, or is like a demon already. Great. Shows that Ultramarines are corruptible. Love that. That was a good touch. The Imperial Fist guy, that was a good touch. Just a shame they didn't run with his character a lot longer, but is what it is. They don't have the budget for a good army, so that's fine. Yeah, not good. I will move on, and I'm going to move on to another question swiftly. So thanks for submitting that, Jamie. And for anyone else who's got any Ultramarines questions, put them to someone else, because I don't enjoy the army. Hey, here's one for all of us. Okay. What other tabletop games do we like to play? That was from Sean. I'm going to just start with that one quickly, guys. I'm not going to go name all the other tabletop games I like to play, because there's an endless list. But I think I'd say my other favourite game that I love to play, tabletop wise, is can you call it tabletop? You probably can. I was going to say Munchkin, but I guess you can't really.
It's a card-based game, but yeah, I suppose.
Yeah,
you could class it sort of a board game-esque.
Yeah, I like a bit of Munchkin now and then. It's a good game. It's fun. You can either play normally, or you can be that sort of cheat, or you can just just be a bit of an annoying pain to everyone else in the game. It's always good fun, and it always brings out a good laughs for everyone. So I'm a big fan of Munchkin. I actually have the Warhammer 40k Munchkin game, which I would love to get on the channel. I'd love to get all the expansions for it, because the game criminally lacks Magnus. It has Mortarion, but not Magnus. Are you kidding me, Games Workshop? I've seen there's an expansion, I think so.
It came out at that stage. Mortarion was jumping about new, so yeah, maybe one day you get your Magnus card.
Yeah. What about you, Rob? What other tabletop games you like?
Myself, I'm I play Malifaux, which is Victorian steampunk. There's a new game called Moonstone, which is similar sort of skirmish, but it's a game that you don't use really any dice or anything like that. It's all cards like Malifaux. A load of board games. I mean, mine and Pixie's games room is literally, 90% of it is Pixie's, but it's just wall-to-wall board games.
All the board games.
Well, I'm sat in here at the moment next door to her computer desk, her computer streaming gaming desk, and we've got the likes of Mansions of Madness, so a lot of Cthulhu, my Crisis Protocol, and Doom, the board game, Arcadia Quest,
nice.
with all the expansions. Our Whip Shells has got a load of Malifaux, which I got Pixie into, and Moonstone, which is like orcs and goblins, and pixies, fairies, which is really, really good fun. I haven't got that much more money to spend on anything else, really.
We all live in an expensive hobby.
Yeah, but yeah, it's, like I said, mainly we try and play a couple of board games a week. Painting up a load of the Malifaux stuff and Moonstone stuff. Yeah, that's about it, really.
All right, Ross, what yourself?
So speaking of expensive hobby, now I have a great way to get around this though. So one of the great games I enjoy playing the most, and I only get to play it on occasion, is Kingdom Death. I think I've mentioned it before on the sort of podcast of the channel. Yeah, I absolutely love it. It's a really good cooperative game. I prefer when it comes to sort of other board games. I do like cooperative ones where you build stuff together, you build your weaponries, the way your base works as well. Really excellent game. Now, the way I get around the cost is I actually play this with Duke Silver, and he buys all the stuff. How do you know he's going to say a board game he doesn't own? So he had to say says a game he doesn't own. Yeah, it's an expensive board game, and Duke buys a lot of the parts for it. And because it's cooperative, we just play together, and we have a great time. Except the last time we played it together, I was really, really, really unwell, and I just couldn't really play much of it. But it is by far, it's a hefty investment game, and it's one that you will never, I think, David, I don't think we've really got past this with you. I don't think we've got past like the second or third boss.
Ross, one of my characters get killed by tall grass.
Oh yeah, so it did, by that cursed grass. Yeah, that wasn't good.
No, it was just tall grass. Just tall grass.
A lot of crazy things happened in that one. Another one I quite enjoy, though I'm rubbish at it, because I have the worst luck in the world, is what one was it? Yeah, other than 40k, I'm bad luck in general. Was it House on the Haunted Hill?
All right.
Where I think I believe it's this one. I actually recommended it to one of my family recently.
It's good fun.
And it's basically, you go through, you all work together, you go through a house, a bit like Cluedo, find things, and then a haunting will happen. And then, again, another game I don't have, it's actually Duke that has it. I just make him buy all the games. And you basically, a haunting will happen, and then either an opponent will come, be a mummy or something, or one of you will be cursed and you will become the opponent. Really, really good. Last time I played it, I became the villain and I had to kill one of the players and I would win. And I got to them and I was about to basically win, but I rolled so badly that I just essentially missed them utterly. They then had a swing at me to try and steal the object from me that could essentially kill me, because somehow I got the object that was the only thing that could kill me. They managed to roll all the dice to steal it from me and then punched me another time and wiped me out of existence. So somehow I missed. They stole and killed me. It was like the most unlikeliest of dice rolls, but it happened. And I think I left the room immediately at that in anger, because it shouldn't have happened. Like, that was the most statistically unlikely thing I've ever seen in my life.
I'm sure there's a few battle reports, Ross, which will break that theory, but...
Oh, that one where I just kept exploding.
Yeah.
That
would hurt. I mean, so you guys saying about KDM or Kingdom Death is like we've actually got some of the minis, or Pixie has hidden away in our to-do cupboard of Kingdom Death, and we've got a very good friend who solely paints Kingdom Death minis,
Ooh.
and they do look very, very nice, especially with the scale of them, etc. Oh, Pixie just let me know. She said she's got about 20. So,
oh my word, they're not cheap models.
No, they're not at all. But yeah, the Kingdom Death minis, I've not seen them, I've not put together, I've not painted any, but they do look very, very good.
Great game.
So guys, we've got a few last questions before we wrap things up. I'm going to quickly move on to you, Rob. Really quick question here from Scott. What's your thought process when you take to developing a new paint scheme?
Interesting one. The way that I do it is, if there's an army that I want to do, is the first thing is how do I see that army? So, like for the AdMech is, I just read a load of the fluff, and the fluff gives you sort of a basis of how you see the army. Forget about the standard, so the Mars red or red and yellow for Varus Prime or orange for Riser or anything like that. It's how you physically see that army looking, and then I look at the colours that I want to try out, or I've got ink in. So like for Admechis, I did want to do orange, but I changed a lot of the colours linked with Riser, so the blacks and reds and silvers on there. And it's sort of the colours that you feel when you paint that model for that army, you like or you want to do. I don't like to stay by I said standard colours or anything like that. I mean the Genestealer Cult I've got, there's flesh, there's blue skin, there's blue grey skin, there's grey tunics, red accents, grey respirators, etc. Because those colours I felt go together, and it's the first colours I saw makes you want to paint that army itself. I mean, when I painted up the Harleys first time before bringing it to channel to players, I saw the Harlequins in fun colours, like just licking a skittle, green and yellow. And it works because that type of army, you can put whatever colours you want on Harlequins. They will work with the style and the flow of the model and everything like that. But it's whatever makes you think that army will work, you do it, and no one can say any different.
That's good.
I mean, like I said, for the Necrons, I'm actually doing blue glows instead of green.
Yeah, it looks nice. It's different from your normal colour palette.
Yeah, exactly. One, it's a challenge for me to paint. Two, everybody does green, and the green glow that you get from GW is supposed to be really, really good. Fair play, but I want to do something different. So, and that's what I want to do, and I've worked out the scheme that I want to do itself, and it works. Therefore, I'm going to carry on doing it.
Well, thanks for sharing, Rob. Appreciate it. No, always like your schemes. They're never too dull. There's always something popping in it. Always like the Harley, so appreciate it. Moving on, we've got a question for you, Ross. This is from John. Would you create? Oh my God. Would you create an Ultramarines army just to annoy David?
Yes.
David, what was going on with Ultramarines in you is right. How can I answer this without sounding a bit like a sociopath?
You could just say pass.
I have really no problem in sort of vexing you, David, or really.
How long do you want to live there, Ross? Put it that way.
I can easily annoy David in a number of ways that don't involve me spending a significant amount of army and predominantly it's the paint scheme to rile you. And sure, it comes down to how much of a budget have I got to annoy you. And trust me, I've gone to extreme lengths to annoy you, David.
Yeah, you have. I've known you for years. Well aware.
We've known each other for a long time. But to get an entire army just to, have you probably dispose of it as soon as you see it, no, I think that might be a step too far. But we'll work it in somehow. If I have Death Watch and all their captains are Ultramarines, that might subtly annoy David. He can't do anything too much about it, but if they've all got Ultramarine Aldrins, or I can change them up and suddenly make them all Ultramarines, that might be enough.
Yeah, let's just. I'm more than happy for you to know.
Did I not buy you a Christmas present once and it was Ultramarine something?
You bought me a Forge World Ultramarine 30k Horus Heresy standard. Not for me to use, just to annoy me.
Just to annoy you, yeah. I mean, I am genuinely one of the worst people at buying presents. I won't go into some of the stories of...
Usually when you buy me a present for my birthday, it's David, here's a bottle of Jack Daniels, which... Oh, by the way, I forgot you don't drink, so...
Yeah. Do you know, David, you know the context behind me buying wedding presents, don't you?
Yeah, we shouldn't discuss that in the podcast.
No, okay, we won't discuss that.
We will leave that out of the public domain. Because some of those people you've bought gifts for may be listening.
Yeah, that's true.
So we will leave that out.
I shouldn't buy gifts, is what I'm saying.
Late night podcast with Dave and Ross.
Yeah, we need to put that on a private platform.
What presents you should not buy for people?
Yeah.
Anything I've bought. All my receipts.
So we'll move on to the final question, and thank you, it's not Ultramarines related. So it's the final question of the podcast, and it's aimed at myself. It's not came from one person, it's came from a number of different people. Okay, so why does David wear the scarf? If you can actually look at the artwork in our podcast, you'll notice I'm wearing a scarf. My Thousand Suns character is wearing a scarf. That was a special request to our artist, and I'm glad they did that and put that in. Why do I wear a scarf? It's an interesting one. I like to call it my tactical scarf. I don't know, it has no extra luck. It's not a luck charm or anything. I know some people have got their quirks. Like, I know the famous tennis player Rafael Nadal has to line all his water bottles out in a certain way when he plays. I don't have to play with my scarf. It's more a comfort factor. I always wear... I've been wearing scarves for years, just purely... And the thing is, I also wear a lot of beanie hats.
You do it so well.
Oh, thank you. I can't tell if that's sarcasm. Don't send me an Ultramarine in the post. I don't know, I like wearing beanies and scarves. It's just purely a comfort thing. See, when you're filming all day, guys, it's a long process. I'd love to one day maybe do a behind the scenes episode where you, the viewers, could see how much work we put into the battle reports and our content, but we're on our feet a lot of the day. It's a tiring, it's early start, sometimes too late, and I really just want to dress comfortably. Sometimes the rooms are cold as well. My temperature, I don't know if I was an animal in a past life, because sometimes I'm freezing, sometimes I'm roasting, and it's clearly like I'm feeling freezing, but it's like 30 degrees outside. I don't know. I just like wearing comfy clothes, so my scarf's there. Whenever you don't see the scarf in the battle report, 9 times out of 10 I've forgot it, or I can't find it, or I've still got this theory that maybe Ross is hiding it because he thinks maybe that'll, stop twos and those sort of things, because it is a tactical scarf after all. But
absolutely.
But yeah, that's it. There's nothing special behind it, and guess what? I know it annoys some people, so maybe I should stop wearing it. I just want to be comfy more than anything else. Yeah, there's an honest opinion, guys. Take it for what you want. It's my tactical scarf, and it's here to keep me comfy.
How long have you had it for, David? Because this is going to be where people may judge you.
Which one?
Which one? Which one's the oldest, so we can judge you worse?
Okay. So I tend, well, just so you know, people. Yeah, I'm not allowed to say this. I buy the same scarf from the same retailer. I'm not going to mention the retailer because I think we'll get in trouble in the podcast for doing that. Maybe have to sponsor them or something. But the same retailer, because the same retailer's been selling the same scarf for like the last, I'd say, 20 years. But the scarf that I have at the moment, I would say is at least, I'm going to say 4 years old, 4.5 years old.
I'm going to bet it's older than that.
I can guarantee you it's not.
Sure. You're still 4 or 5 years old. Fair enough, David. Fair enough.
And now the next question you really should have asked is, do you wash it? And we're going to save that for the next podcast.
I don't want, if there better be one answer for that, and if it's not that answer, don't answer. Please don't answer that one.
No, that's fine. So, anyway, guys, that brings an end to our podcast today. Covered a lot of topics, as you know, a lot of 9th edition stuff, a lot of impression stuff. We got to finally answer some of your questions, very important questions, especially about Ultramarines. So thank you for submitting those. I'm glad you all understand how important they mean to me. And thanks as well to Ross and Rob for joining us on this podcast, sharing your thoughts. Always great to have you on, and let us know what's happening around the Warhammer world and your little worlds, as we are all kind of locked down at the moment. But guys, joining us in the next podcast, which we will announce on our Facebook page when we're going to get round to doing that. We'll hopefully try and make these as regular as we can, all things considered. It's challenging at the moment with things around the world, but we'll try our best. We do hope you enjoyed it. Any comments you have, this will be up in a replay on our YouTube channel. Put them in the comment section down below. Comment, share, like and subscribe. And we hope to see you all in some more of our Tabletop Assault Battle Reports. See you later, guys.